Alright, guys, I ain't done this before, so learning as we go. But I think we're there. So thank you for tuning in, and thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to speak. What I thought we'd do today is go through three different things. So, click will do. Share three different things. The first is to share a bit about me and my journey and where we've come from, because it's a bit of an interesting story in itself. Talk through a key project that we're working through, which is with the NHS, and then after that, we're going to go through. Let me just sort this out. No, that's better. After that, we're going to go through a personal project that I'm also working on with an organisation called Leeds Digital Drinks. So I've set a timer for a quarter of an hour, so it'll remind me to stop talking at some point. So first and foremost, so I'm from a company called Everyday Juice Limited. It's my business. I can tell you a little bit about where we've come from and our sort of journey to present day. But as a starting point, there's our purpose. So we believe that everybody has a right to be healthy and happy at work, connected to a community of people who want to make a positive impact on themselves in the workplace. So every single decision that we make, every single move that we do, and the markets that we go for are all based upon those missions. We've got two primary markets that we're working. So the first one is higher education. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a sec. And then the next one is the NHS. We're doing a growing amount of work within the health sector. And we do a little bit of work outside of that, but not a great deal, to be honest. But we are always open to opportunities. Now, where did we start? So we didn't start as a business. We started as an internal initiative at the University of Sheffield. So to give you a little bit of context on the sector at this point, it was 2011. The University of Sheffield is a very large Russell Group university, sort of circa 7,800 staff there or thereabouts at that point, and it's grown significantly since. And Andrew Dodman, who's now the Chief HR Officer at the University of Sheffield, he was the new in-post HR Director for the university. And his first big ticket job to do as the brand new HR Director was to shut down pension schemes for a very big chunk of staff at the university. Now, this was a national issue, as the pension pots were in a massive deficit. All universities were taking the same action. But I'm sure you can appreciate he wasn't flavour of the month at that point for his first big project. And it might not surprise you that staff morale, staff engagement was very, very low at this point because of all this action that was going on. And there's a lot of, and Sheffield as a city is incredibly, it's got very, very much industrial roots, and it's a very unionist city. They take unions very, very serious, perhaps more so than other universities. So there was industrial action all over the place throughout that year. So anyway, we wanted to show staff at the University of Sheffield. I was an internal member of staff at this point, and we wanted to show them to staff at the University of Sheffield that Sheffield's where you belong. This is the community you belong to. This is where you should stay. Don't leave Sheffield, go to Leeds, York, Nottingham, wherever, all our local rivals. Stay here in Sheffield. And we thought, how can we do that? How can we show that Sheffield is where these people should be? And we thought health and wellbeing was something that's important to all of us, something that we could all engage in and all get on board with. But health and wellbeing is incredibly different between everybody. Everybody who's listening now, wellbeing means something completely different to each of us. So, where do we start? So we looked at the university's health and wellbeing offer as it stood at that point, and we came up with two key challenges that we were facing as an institution. So the first one was, we unpicked the health and wellbeing offer, and there's loads of stuff going on, loads of really good practice, really good offers, really good services, activities, events, things going on all the time, all year round. But that people weren't finding it. And the reasons we found for were the recognition of what was part of that wellbeing offer and what wasn't was weak, because the navigation was terrible. Trying to access that provision was really difficult. It's really hard for them to find and really hard to communicate because it was all over the place. And then more of a sort of HR basis, we were the ones that were managing this service. It required a lot of resource to facilitate this type of provision, this amount of provision, and we wanted this provision to grow as well organically with the through the need of the staff of the university. So the more this management this would require, the more this grew, the more resources it require, and it should build and build and build and build. So what did we do in response to that? So we did 3 things. You can see them there. Don't worry about writing anything down here. I will circulate these, so you can get the slides afterwards. But we brought what was a disparate health and wellbeing offer into one place, made it really, really simple to navigate, really, really simple for people to find. And because people could find it really simply, people could engage in it in a much more simpler fashion. We created a clear identity, a recognisable brand, which would become Juice, so that every member of staff knew when they saw the Juice logo attached to whatever service, they knew it was part of the wellbeing offer. And then on our sort of HR bit, point number 2, we automated as much as possible. So all the booking process, for example, was all automated. All the emails were automated. All the attendance sheets were automatically distributed to leaders. All this stuff was automatic. So we could spend our time doing what was most important, not spending loads of time in front of a spreadsheet managing this stuff, but going out into the departments, talking to staff, learning about what their needs are, and servicing that need and building it around local provision. Now, just a bit of a bolt-on from there, all of this provision was brought into one place online, but we're mindful that although the university is one single site, it's 3 miles in diameter. It's a big place, 200 or 300 buildings or however many. Getting from A to B was difficult, and we're mindful that not everybody is able or wanting to get to health and wellbeing provision, sort of activities and events. So we wanted to service the need of those that weren't able to get to things either. So we created content all year round, with new content released every week, if not more often, so that members of staff can engage in things all the time on a regular basis. So every time they went back to Juice, there'd be something new, something for them to find. Now, when we started looking at what the provision looked like then, and we thought, well, we need to build something for what value we want to instill. So when you go to I don't know about what markets attendees here are in, but I go to HR conferences all the time. It's sickness absence, presenteeism, increase in engagement, staff retention, turnover, blah 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 blah. That's the key themes, and those kind of things are great on a organisational perspective. Very, very important to a HR director and a senior team, but decreasing your organisation's sickness absence score isn't going to get somebody to jump out of bed in the morning and want to come to work. Let's be truthful about it. Nobody cares. I care about my personal well-being. That's what matters to me. So that's where we should go. So we developed these values, and there's a number of them there, but the key one I want to pick out is Juice is developed for the needs of the employee, not the employer. So decreasing sickness absence and so on, they're outcomes you'll get anyway by having well-engaged and healthy and happy staff. And we wanted to have a bias for actions. We wanted people not just to go somewhere and read something, get a policy, an amazing policy on health and well-being, or a little article here and there. We do those, but really we want to get people out of their offices, out of their workplaces, engaging with other people within the organisation, and foster that community within a large employer. So they're where we where we started from, where we wanted to build. Now, we've run all sorts of different stuff through Juice. So as mentioned, that bias for action is incredibly important for us. Getting people out of their office into one place, sharing passions, hobbies, interests and talents with other colleagues, and showcasing what makes you you. We've done the usual stuff, so we've done things like boot camp sessions, Tai Chi sessions, nutrition seminars, mindfulness courses, that kind of, so you kind of expect that in a corporate wellbeing program. But perhaps for the most engaged in provision that we've run through Juice is the more novel and sort of off the wall type provision. And we've done sword dancing, guide puppy dog walking. We've done knitting clubs, chaplaincies run, spiritual courses. We've what else have we done? One organisation we work with spent $2,000 on a massive scale extract, which I love playing on when I go to. So they develop that in a Juice activity, and then further subsequent activities they were developing, scenery to go around it. So we've done all sorts of weird and wonderful things over the years, and that's really sort of brought a lot of cohesion between employees and opportunities to network and engage with people outside of their usual teams. Now, one thing that we use a lot is the New Economics Foundation's 5 Ways to Wellbeing. Now, some people may have seen this before. It's used quite widely now. It's developed in 2008 following a government think tank known to develop a framework which people can engage in on a regular basis very easily. And the 5 Ways to Wellbeing was born. Now, it's been researched time and time again. It's used throughout the NHS now. It's used various different sports clubs around the world, and a lot of big employers are starting to adopt this. Now, research suggests that if a person can touch 3 out of 5 of those ways to well-being on a regular basis, so multiple times throughout the day, they've got a better chance of having an optimal well-being more broadly. So that's not just physical, mental, social, and the like. It's everything. Now, a colleague and I have written a booklet about this. I'm very happy to send that with these slides so you can get a bit more information about it. But it's incredibly powerful model we found. And one thing that it has enabled, which we didn't initially expect, was there's a lot more grey between these brackets than what there are through general health and wellbeing genres like physical, social, mental, financial, and so on. And what I mean by that is if you take an activity like Tai Chi as an example, Tai Chi, really popular activity for all the organisations we've worked with over the years. If you're looking to put that into a bracket, it's a physical activity, so it could go into a physical bracket. It's a mental activity, so it could go into that. It's more of a meditative activity, so it could very easily go into mental well-being. You're meeting new people that could easily put into social. So it will fit into various different pockets. So where do you put that, and where is it best placed? And we thought the 5 Ways to Wellbeing was a much easier way of positioning our offer. Now, we've won loads of awards over the years, which is awesome. Really pleased with those, delighted with that. Lots and lots of wine has been drunk over the years through those. But the one we're most proud of is we won the Sunday Times Top 100 Wellbeing Award in 2016, and that was our first year. Thank you very much. As our first year of entry, so I was delighted with that. And with the Unilever and BMW and all sorts in that. Some really big global organisations. But what's most important to us, that's great, really good nights out. But what's most important is what staff are saying. It's just a couple of examples. The one on the left, the longer one is one that we're particularly pleased with. But these are just unsolicited things that people have said. Mainly at the University of Sheffield, these 3 examples, but we've got lots of these. And that one on the left, for example, that was in Andy's inbox one rainy Thursday morning or whatever it was. And, you know, and it really shows that you're making a tangible difference to people's experience within the employer. So that's a bit of a background to where we've been. Really Whistlestop on sort of the last 12 months really. So we were spun out into a subsidiary which I've led since creation in 2015. We've worked with loads of good businesses over the years. There's a few of them on the side there. In 2019, so mid last year, we left the university group, so the university exited entirely. So we're now completely independent. And we're now using that to work on some really big projects. I'm going to take you through one of those today, which is with the NHS, in particular 2 trusts in London. So to give you a bit of context, so the NHS, we all know it, is under a hell of a lot of pressure at the moment. You know, we don't need reminding of that. But the NHS is there for 2 primary purposes: is to provide a world-class service to patients, and to be a remarkable place to work, which attracts and retains its talented people. So that's what the NHS is really gunning for. The former, so providing them world-class patients, you know, it does incredibly well. The latter, there's work to be done. I'm sure colleagues in the NHS won't begrudge me for saying that. But one thing that I have found is, in fact, now I'm going to go back actually. Yeah, perfect, I can do. One thing I have found is I've had the opportunity to talk to HR directors in the NHS all over the country over the past 4 or 5 years. And I'm always left inspired by the amount of work that they're doing in this area, and the amount of great work that they're doing in this area. Some really, really good practice everywhere. And they invest heavily, despite what you see in the news, they invest heavily in this sort of stuff. But they have various challenges getting between the service and staff engaging in them. So the 2 I've already mentioned, so communication, navigation, recognition, that's a big issue. The resource required to manage that provision is a big issue. You know, no different to any big employer. But they've got more NHS specific issues facing them as well for preventing engagement. So the NHS is full of very busy people, especially now, full of very, very busy people doing long shifts, 10, 12, 14-hour shifts. They might have family commitments outside of work. They might have a long commute. I live in Leeds. I worked in Sheffield for 6 years. That's 3 hours in my day lost straight off the bat. That's not unusual. So I have long shifts. God forbid they might have a social life outside of work. You know, we can't stop them from doing that. And then the big one for me is that location bit. So it's not unusual for somebody to go from one city to another city to go to work, or have a long commute to go to work. And the way the NHS is set up is it's incredibly devolved in its structure. So if you work for Leeds Teaching Trust, as an example, you work in Baildon under the remit of the Bradford Teaching Trust. Because you work for Leeds, you can only access health and wellbeing provision in Leeds. You can't access it in Bradford, even though it's close to. And that's just an issue with such a large, widespread employer. Now, because you've got those commitments outside of work, it means you're not able to access it in Leeds. Therefore, you can, if you have an issue, or even if you have an issue or not, you're kind of stuck in the centre ground where I can't engage in health and wellbeing provision as a member of staff because I don't have time at work and I can't do it at home. So you're stuck in this centre ground. Now, I thought, wouldn't it be awesome if there was one central place where NHS organisations can pull their provision together? They can put its provision into this single site, and the members of staff, regardless where they're based, where they live, where they work, they can access health and wellbeing provision as and when they wish, whenever works best for them and whenever suits them. So if members of staff live in Bradford but work in Leeds or vice versa, they're able to access each other's provision. Likewise, if they go on secondment to London or they go on a weekend away in Edinburgh, they're able to access local provision. So that was kind of my sort of idea, and I'm delighted to say that we're running this now. So we're running it with two very large mental health trusts in London, Central North West London and West London teaching trusts. They're pooling their provision together so that members of staff can share it across a really widespread geographical region. There's another 18 co-located NHS organisations and councils on top of that. So providing the pilot goes well, all of those will come in as well. And then we'll have West London as a geographical region. It's called an STP for those that have heard of it. And if you haven't heard of it, have a look. We're spreading it across the STP and then building out from there. There's a few of them in London. And what's interesting about it is we've had input from everybody. So it's not just a HR initiative. We've worked with occupational health, we've worked with the communications teams, the trade unions have been involved. We've all built this together so that we can all go towards one mutual aim. So that's something that we're working on at the moment. It's due to come to an end in October as a pilot. We've extended it because of all the current events. So I'll report back and let you know how we're getting on with that closer to the end point. And then finally, before I go back to questions, is something that I've been working on very recently is around the coronavirus and the impact on businesses. And I threw this in because I thought it might be of interest to some people on this call. So Leeds Digital Drinks is a networking event and group that I'm a part of. And we facilitate, similar to Tech for Good, we facilitate a number of different events on a relatively regular basis for our Leeds. Now, one thing that you can't get past is businesses struggling at the moment. Across all sectors, this is an issue. And I wouldn't be surprised if a very big number of those aren't here come the end of the coronavirus epidemic. So what we've done is we've created an initiative called Support Your Local Leeds. And what Support Your Local Leeds does is it brings local businesses together into one central place, kind of like what we had reduced for health and wellbeing, where everyday population can access this and they can support local businesses in the Leeds region, whether that be through social media sharing, whether that be through monetary donations, buying gift cards, whatever that may be. We're hoping that people will come to this and find that directory. So I'm going to stop talking now and open up for questions. My email address is there, and I will circle this. If there's any further questions after, just bang us an email. And we'll go from there. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Gary. Really interesting, and especially some of the coded stuff as well at the end, because that's actually one of my questions. How sort of the current COVID-19 climate is that kind of changing anything what you're doing at Juice? Is that having an impact? Yeah,
it is. So we work with an organisation on an annual basis. So we work with on annual contracts. So in terms of cash flow, hasn't really impacted us that much. However, the core of what we do is bring people together into one room and share common interests. Obviously, we're quite rightly told not to do that now. So that's impacted a lot of our provision on the organisations that we work with. So that's something we've had to work around, and we're doing that through partnerships with other providers, so we can continue to drive engagement through Juice. So we've had to think on his feet a bit with that, but it hasn't been hugely disruptive. I guess the main thing for us is opportunity costs. So we're in discussion with a lot of different employers about what we do, multiple different sectors, and for again, for all the right reasons, they've diverted their attention to responding to current events rather than looking at more broader wellbeing provisions. So that's slowed discussions down quite significantly. So that'd be the main sort of impact for us, I think.
Okay, thanks. There's a question. I think there's been a bit of chatter going on actually in the chat one. You've been talking to quite good. There was a question that's come through from someone anonymous. What's your favourite flavour of juice?
What's my favourite flavour of juice? Quite boring. I just go orange off the top of my head.
Nice. Ties in with your Brandon. Ties in with the Brandon.